Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Charity Charge Show. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are pleased to be joined by Heather Wathington. She is the CEO of iMentor, and they're doing incredible work, really pushing mentorship forward across the United States. Heather, I know that y'all just wrapped up a successful mentorship month here in January. Tell me a little bit about what's going on at iMentor right now.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me, Grayson. This is wonderful to be here with you and Charity Charge. Yeah, I'm fired up. I can't wait to be able to talk with you and share a little bit about what we've been up to. So, of course, January, we started the year with January being National Mentoring Month, and we are very much trying to make mentorship a movement and talk more and more about the power of mentorship and what it does. This past April, so ending yesterday, we launched a multi-year, multifaceted campaign called Open Doors Ignite Possibility. We are mobilizing mentors, corporate partners, and communities to strengthen mentorship networks and to ensure that as many students as possible have the relationships, the guidance, and the confidence needed to be able to pursue wherever they want to go. Of course, really supportive of students' ambitions and their dreams. So we are calling for 1 million doors to be opened by 2035. And an open door is a pledge to become a mentor, to make a donation, activate your network and supportive mentorship. And so we have encouraged people to check out our website, opendoors.imentor.org, to learn more about how folks can open a door and ignite possibility for first generation students.
That is incredible. And tell me a little bit more about what being a mentor means. Is there any misconceptions that you talk with whenever people are learning about iMentor for the first time?
Yes, all of the time. So we very much believe in one-on-one mentoring, although, we do group mentoring, but we want students to have an anchor, a person that really does connect with them. And build a relationship with them, to know them, understand them, and be able to support them in the many ways in which we find young people need support. It's really kind of that simple. We don't ask for people to be champions, which is usually what people need, or like a community leader or a corporate mogul. There's just no need for any of those things. Rather, it's just a person that wants to advocate and support a young person in the next generation. We particularly focused on under resourced communities where we know students are less likely to be able to have that advocate or that caring sort of adult outside of their family that can impart sort of advice, wisdom, someone to just listen, but also a person that can open up networks, that can open doors, that can encourage and lead a number of different ways. So there's a host of ways in which mentors can add value. And we try very hard to encourage mentors to just come as they are. If they are concerned about a young person, we're 100% sure that you have sort of advice and encouragement to be able to impart. And we also train. So we try very hard to make sure that mentors are getting just the skills, but also the confidence that they need to be able to connect with a young person. So we have staff that are actively engaged and actively involved in supporting the pair relationship to make sure that both the mentor and the mentee are getting as much as they can out of that relationship and are maximizing what both parties bring to the table.
That's incredible. I appreciate you kind of sharing that. As I was doing some research, you stepped into this role as CEO in 2021. Pivotal kind of moment in time, especially for the population that you serve, coming out of COVID, some of the difficulties that were faced, in the kind of K through 12 education, for that community. As you stepped into this role, how have you seen the challenges that kind of the youth that you serve are facing change and adapt, and how is iMentor stepping up to meet that need and challenge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think iMentor was started almost 30 years ago because of a real central problem that we see that persists. Students have very little access to guidance counselors and college support in their high schools. And so that's been kind of an enduring condition, one that sometimes we've seen over time some support if schools have additional resources. They certainly invest and beef in felt that support for young people. But in other cases, many of the schools that we're working with have very tight budgets and are doing the best that they can to make sure that students get as much advising about life after college as possible. But of course, a lot of their time is spent trying to make sure they graduate from high school because that
Yeah,
is the core goal of being in high school, right?
and
So
it's
absolutely, absolutely. So, want to shout out our school partners that are working hard to make sure that students are earning that high school credential. But many are also concerned with, life after high school and how do they support young people to do that. I think what has changed is the college and career pathway has become convoluted. There are so many options and so many paths that students can take that it becomes very, very challenging for a young person to navigate all of them. And what we try to do at iMentor with working with mentorship as a key tool is to simplify the pathways, simplify the paths, and make it become clearer, not always clear, but clearer to students around how they can step through a path to pursue their ambitions. So if they are, interested in business but not really sure, right? There's that mentor there to be able to support you and be able to enlighten you a bit about what business could look like, what it might look like if you major at X college, what credential would be important for learning more about that. So I think there's definitely support there to help students along their pathways, but it's also, I think, big pieces changes that we've seen that relationships infrastructure has changed over time. So I think Robert Putnam in his book Bowling Alone very much talked about how that landscape in communities is starting to change. Actually, we see fewer and fewer informal relationships
mm,
between one generation to the next.
ah,
And that connection there is often been disconnected and fraught. And we really saw more disconnection after the pandemic. And
mm.
so trying to make sure that students have someone to connect to that can actually be more of a connection has become more of a challenge. And so I mentor very much is trying to fill that gap in ways where we're saying mentorship for as many young people as possible can really enable them to have connections to social networks that they wouldn't have, relationships that they wouldn't have, and knowledge that they wouldn't have without the gift of mentorship.
That's amazing. Something that struck my mind as you were speaking about all the different pathways and almost how convoluted it's become, as someone that's stepping into the workforce or higher education for the first time. Is there any foundational skills or lessons that you would like at every single youth that would, walk through iMentor's doors to learn, despite whatever, path they end up going down? Is there like some kind of core values that you're looking to instill in every, mentee?
Absolutely. We're certainly looking for young people to be able to understand a post-secondary credential, right? So I would say that's kind of knowledge, understanding sort of that there's a path life after college and that or life after high school and that there are opportunities for them to grow in their knowledge, learn and continue to grow. So we want that for them. We want them to have this, I guess, habit or skill of lifelong learning and to pursue that. But we also want students to learn about mentorship and the importance of building social networks, the importance of social capital, and how they have pre existing capital in their communities and in their networks, and how to grow that network, how to grow that social capital to help them advance their goals.
It's a great answer. That social capital, I think, is a piece that it's really hard to understand for the first time. Can you describe a little what that means from your perspective for the people that y'all serve?
Yeah, so we know that jobs often, about 70% of jobs are found with someone that you know, right? That connection to someone that is known often provides that network and that relationship for someone to access work. So we realize it's very important for young people to begin to get to know others who might be able to connect them to opportunities. So we often say, like, not just what you know, but it's also who you know. That is important. We kind of try to flip that around to very much indicate that learning and getting a credential, becoming skilled in whatever, path that you want to is important. And the way in which you're going to get where you're trying to go often is through people. That infrastructure and that network is going to be invaluable to you as you continue to grow in your career.
Whenever I kind of listen to it kind of as you've been sharing this, and y'all have, it's that one-on-one kind of mentorship. So I assume that every mentor is unique in their own way, and same thing with every mentee. How do y'all train mentors to ensure that they're really achieving the mission, increasing their social capital, educating their mentee on what post high school education could look like and credentials? What does that process look like from the organization's perspective?
Yeah, so we are really fortunate to have these amazing and dynamic program managers that work often in our schools that we work with directly to be able to support pairs. And so each program staff member has a caseload really of pairs that they're trying to support to make sure that both the mentor and the mentee benefiting from the relationship and growing, and that students are getting their needs met as well as mentors. We start at the beginning of the year with mentors saying that there are a few trainings that we think are really, really important. And we ask them to, if they can, meet virtually with their program staff at the very beginning of the year to learn about their mentees specifically. And then we have quite a few trainings over the course of the year that are delivered virtually with Zoom. Some of them are about building a post secondary list, right? And sort of what that process can entail for a young person and what that looks like. Tells them things about FAFSA, so financial aid. We share things with them about the Common App and how there's this application that so many students can fill out to apply to multiple colleges. So we try to provide some lots of background information on current day college access tools that are available to support young people in making that connection. We also support mentors with real tools around relationship building and just how getting to know a person, young person, often around their interests and their passions are really important. Being able to provide your own experience as a backdrop to that young person's experience is important. To be able to say, been there, done that, to encourage young people to sort of feel confident and step out there a bit becomes important. But that the mentor's experience is the mentor's experience. So it might not be the path for your student. And so trying to be open and as supportive as possible as to what they're telling you about what it is that they believe that they're passionate about, and asking mentors to think about how best to guide them to make the best decisions that they can based on where they are. We also on our platform have some asynchronous lessons that mentors can avail themselves of that provide some content and some guidance overall. We have some guidebooks and some modules as well. So we have a host of resources to actually support mentors and kind of guide them to what they can expect while they're working with a young person and to point them in the direction of things they might need. There is, of course, no substitute for, I think, program managers and live people who can say, I can help you with this too. So we're trying to make sure that that's available as much as possible.
And when I think about the model, the challenge has to be expanding because for every mentee, you need a mentor and kind of vice versa. As you look at the new campaign y'all launched, the Open Doors Ignite Possibility, what do you view as the main challenge that iMentor faces as you look to expand and grow the mission in the coming years?
I think it's finding mentors, right? I think the young people are there, right? We know where they are. They're in schools, they're, connected to boys and girls clubs, and they're in communities tied to a host of different activities. So the young people are definitely easy to locate, and many are anxious for figuring out their next steps. And often it doesn't show up as anxiety, but really sort of what is going on behind the scenes, for many of them is, what am I going to do? And I'm really uncertain about the path that I'm going to take. And so the biggest challenge ends up being finding mentors that are willing to lend their time, their expertise, and just a listening ear to be able to support young people. And so as we build the campaign, that it's a huge campaign that is focused on trying to draw mentors in and invite them. And it's just, like I said, everyday people to come and consider spending a concrete period of time to support a young person over over their a very critical transition period for their life. We often ask mentors to commit for a few years so that it's a sustained long-term relationship that gets that young person started on what's next for them. And so I think it is trying to provide that relationship infrastructure that we're really trying to galvanize around for Gen Z and soon to be Gen Alpha.
Thank you for sharing that. How can mentors get involved with iMentor, and what does a good mentor look like to you? I know you mentioned it can really be anybody, but what have you seen that makes a successful mentor with your organization?
Yes. So I would say successful mentors are generally folks who are opening to listening. I think that's the first big piece. I think Gen Z has a lot of different questions, different concerns, right? Pursuing college has is an enormous financial cost. And so many of them are weighing whether they can actually afford to go to college. They might want to go, but can they afford to go? Is their only option to, pursue the military or some other path or work right away, often and delay their post-secondary entry. Most of our students tell us that they actually want to attend college. So I would say listening is really important, and trying to understand the contemporary challenges of today's Gen Z and soon to be Gen Alpha. I would say the second piece would be being open to talking with a young person and spending time to build out that pathway. I think it's not a transaction and an instantaneous relationship. It really is built over time. And so requires a lot of patience, I think. Sometimes mentors and mentees click immediately. Sometimes it takes a while, right? I think about my mentee who, after 2 years, was like, I think I'm struggling with this college piece, but I know you're my person. So it is like figuring it out over time that because you've had this relationship, you can rely on it later as time moves forward. And so mentors that have the time are willing to make time to be able to support a relationship to grow. And I do think that mentors need to have a belief in limitless potential for young people. We really want our
Mhm.
mentors to be champions and cheerleaders and believe that their students can achieve the impossible. And so I think that becomes really an important ingredient as well. And then just someone that believes very much in investing in the next generation. And that doesn't have to be financial, but just that you want to make a difference in the lives of a young person. I would say those are the ingredients of a
Mm.
great mentor, I think. And then I would say you can find us at iMentor.org. We also are on Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the socials as at iMentor. You can also find us at opendoors.imentor.org, which is our Opening Doors Igniting Possibility campaign.
That's incredible. Well, another thing that kind of came to my mind as you were sharing this is, yourself being a mentor and really the role of the CEO in living the mission. What are kind of the core lessons that you've really learned being in this role now coming on 5 years?
It's a really good question. I think I reflect a lot. I've had two mentees,
Mm,
and I think I reflect a lot on um, everything that I think I know about mentoring and that and about college access and about students and young people. I try to check a fair amount of it at the door and really just kind of prepare to be present for them when we go. We do ask our mentors to who are active in our program to for high school students to meet at the school once a month. And so there is a hybrid portion. Usually mentors and mentees communicate via our platform back and forth and they write every week. But we also ask for mentors to show up at the student's high school and meet with them there face to face. And so I think when I am thinking about going to meet my mentees, it's usually like, let me just sort of drop everything and think about how I can listen to what they are telling me and what they're asking for. It may be a change from what we talked about the last time we were together. It might be the same. And so I want to be able to show up to that in the best way that I can also want to be able to ask lots of questions about what it is that they really want. My mentee right now is trying to decide, does she really want to leave New York City? So we have this like kind of ongoing conversation. She's a junior, so she's got a little bit of time. But as she's learning colleges, how am I supporting her to learn about colleges within New York City and colleges outside of New York City so she can make the best decision for her? And so, really trying to provide as many comparisons as possible and options so that she can make that choice and decision based on what she experiences and what's best for her and her family. So I would say that that's my biggest piece is just trying to show up and be tuned into them. And they're both really unique, phenomenal young women. So they make it easy for me. But I think it is very much trying to center them and their hopes and dreams.
When you think about the work of iMentor, have you ever walked out from one of those one-on-ones, one of those in-person meetings and kind of had that like a moment like we need to change some of the things that we're doing from an organizational level? Anything like that from these relationships?
Absolutely. We try to we try to match based on personality and interest, right? We do surveys of both the mentors and mentees. And we really have learned a bit about if they both like baseball, that's a great way to connect them. That gives them some common base to share. But I think we also learned that our mentors often feel equipped to actually know a lot about where the student is starting. And the journey starts long before 11th grade, where we actually start working.
Mhm.
So trying to figure out what's the right blend of information to support a mentor with, to tell them a bit more information about their mentee, but also allowing the process, like in the relationship, to build and unfold. So we have some mentors that are like, I just want a dossier. I just want to be able to understand, and we're like, yes, we can give some information, sure, but we also want you to, they might change their mind, right? Like they might tell us they want to go to college, but they're much more interested in going to a technical institute for something. So we want there to be a fair amount of discovery as well as information and just trying to find sort of that balance. I will say the one of the things that I'm really convinced that we do and that I really want to maintain would be the long-term relationship. I really sort of have seen that where it's really challenging. You're just getting to know you, all the things that feel really hard without the dossier and, just trying to get to know a person and figure out how best to support them. It really does pay off, right? A year, 2, 3 years later, because you really have come to know each other. So you're much further along this trajectory than you realize. And you realize you're building trust, you're building sort of confidence, you're building so many things between you all along the way. And so, really love the long term nature of our relationships and just want that to continue to be an important part of mentorship. And what we advocate is really, really critical to actually being able to build such a strong pair relationship between two people.
That's incredible. And I guess my closing question, as you look, to 2035 and that 1 million open doors, what does that look like, and what does that mean for the mentees that are going through iMentor? What are you envisioning the impact of that being?
We are looking for every young person to have a relationship with a mentor. We want doors and opportunities to be opened for young people where they can tangibly see that I am here because this person made it possible for me to do that. My talent, my skill, all of those things are a part of it. But I also was helped along the way, and every young person to then reinvest that right into the next generation to realize that that help and support is immeasurable and it's something to pay forward. We also want young people to think about mentorship for the rest of their life, right? Like in both ways. In finding a new mentor as you get to a different stage of life. So maybe you're in the middle of your career and you need someone to help guide you at that point to the next level. So mentorship is just always an important part, I think, of a person's journey, but then also to think about paying it back. And so we have wonderful legacy mentors in our program that have been mentored by an iMentor mentor and decided I want to be able to pay that back to a young person so they become part of the iMentor program. We, of course, love mentorship and love our organization, but we actually see all the organizations out there that are building mentoring, that have mentorship, that's a part of their program and the work that they're doing with young people. And we want people to be vested in that work. So it's not just about iMentor, it is about mentorship writ large and really trying to make sure that mentoring as a practice is a part of what we do to improve the human condition.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking a little bit more about the impact and really the benefits of mentorship as a whole and how iMentor is contributing to that success.
Grayson, thank you. This was wonderful. So honored to be here.